Muslim man refused service, then returns owning the entire chain. How will this story turn out? To find out, watch the video to the end. But first, please subscribe to my channel and turn on notifications to get more stories like this. It was a bright, bustling afternoon in the city when Amir Hassan decided to take a break from his busy workday. As a devoted family man and owner of a small but thriving consulting firm, Amir rarely allowed himself moments of leisure. But today was different. He had a craving for his favorite sandwich and thought a quick trip to a nearby cafe would be the perfect respite. Little did he know, that decision would set in motion a series of events that would change his life forever. Amir parked his car near the cafe, a charming spot known for its handcrafted sandwiches and aromatic coffee. The cafe's name, proudly displayed on its vintage-style signage, had drawn crowds from all corners of the city. Amir had been a loyal customer for years, often stopping by for meetings or to enjoy a quiet meal. It was a place he associated with comfort and community, a haven where he felt he belonged. As Amir approached the entrance, he noticed something peculiar. A new sign had been placed on the cafe door. It read, in bold, unforgiving letters, "No Muslims allowed." Amir froze in his tracks, his heart sinking. He blinked several times, hoping he had misread the sign. But the words remained glaringly clear and hostile. A mix of disbelief, anger, and sadness coursed through him. How could a place he had frequented for years, a place he had trusted, display such blatant discrimination? Taking a deep breath, Amir decided to confront the situation head-on. He stepped inside the cafe, the familiar chime of the bell above the door ringing out. The cozy interior, with its rustic wooden furniture and soft lighting, suddenly felt cold and unwelcoming. A few customers glanced his way, their expressions a mixture of curiosity and indifference. Behind the counter stood a man Amir hadn't seen before. He appeared to be in his late 40s, with a stern demeanor and a name tag that read Greg. As Amir approached, Greg's eyes narrowed, and his lips curled into a sneer. "Can I help you?" Greg asked, his tone dripping with disdain. Amir gestured toward the sign on the door. "I couldn't help but notice the sign outside. Is it a joke? Some kind of mistake?" Greg crossed his arms, his expression unyielding. "It's not a mistake. We don't serve Muslims here. It's our policy." Amir felt a wave of indignation wash over him. "Your policy? That's not only discriminatory, but it's also illegal. You can't refuse service to someone based on their religion." Greg shrugged, his indifference infuriating. "This is a private business. We have the right to serve whoever we want. If you don't like it, you can leave." Amir's hands clenched into fists at his sides. He took a moment to steady his breathing, refusing to let Greg's hostility provoke him further. "Do you even realize what you're doing? This isn't just about me. It's about the message you're sending to everyone who walks through that door." Greg smirked. "The message is simple. We don't want people like you here." The cafe fell silent, the tension palpable. Amir glanced around, hoping for some sign of support from the other customers. But most of them avoided his gaze, their discomfort evident. Only one young woman, seated near the window, looked his way with an expression of sympathy and concern. Without another word, Amir turned on his heel and walked out of the cafe. The bell chimed again as the door closed behind him, the sound feeling like a punctuation mark on an ugly, unjust encounter. He stood on the sidewalk for a moment, his thoughts racing. Anger burned in his chest, but beneath it lay a deeper resolve, a determination to take action. That evening, Amir recounted the incident to his wife, Layla, as they sat together in their living room. Layla listened intently, her eyes widening with disbelief as Amir described the cafe's discriminatory policy and Greg's callous behavior. "That's outrageous," Layla said, her voice trembling with anger. "How can they get away with something like that?" "They shouldn't," Amir replied. "And they won't. I'm not going to let this go." Layla placed a hand on Amir's arm, her touch grounding him. "What are you planning to do?" Amir met her gaze, his resolve unwavering. "I'm going to fight back. Not with anger or violence, but with action. This isn't just about me. It's about standing up for what's right." The next day, Amir began researching his options. He reached out to a local civil rights organization, sharing his story and seeking advice. The organization's representatives were appalled by what had happened and assured Amir they would support him in his fight for justice. Amir also took to social media, posting a detailed account of his experience at the cafe. His post quickly gained traction, with friends, colleagues, and strangers alike expressing their outrage and solidarity. Within hours, the hashtag #StandWithAmir was trending, sparking a broader conversation about discrimination and the importance of inclusivity. As the days passed, the cafe faced mounting backlash. Customers boycotted the establishment, leaving scathing reviews online and calling for change. News outlets picked up the story, amplifying Amir's message and putting pressure on the cafe's management to address the situation. Greg, however, remained defiant. In an interview with a local reporter, he doubled down on his discriminatory policy, claiming it was his right as a business owner. His remarks only fueled the public's outrage, further isolating the cafe from the community it once served. Amir watched the events unfold with a mix of hope and determination. He knew this was just the beginning of a long and challenging journey. But he also knew he wasn't alone. The support he had received from his family, friends, and community had given him the strength to keep fighting. 1 week after the incident, Amir received a call from the cafe's owner, a woman named Margaret who had been out of town during the controversy. Margaret apologized profusely for Greg's behavior and assured Amir that the cafe did not condone discrimination in any form. "I've already terminated Greg's employment," Margaret said, "and I'm taking steps to ensure something like this never happens again." While Amir appreciated Margaret's swift action, he knew there was more work to be done. He suggested implementing diversity training for the cafe's staff and creating a code of conduct that prioritized inclusivity and respect. Margaret agreed, thanking Amir for his constructive approach and promising to make meaningful changes. But Amir wasn't content to stop there. The experience had ignited a passion within him, a desire to create lasting change on a larger scale. He began brainstorming ways to promote inclusivity not just in one cafe, but across the entire hospitality industry. Amir's determination to transform his painful experience into something constructive took root in the days following his conversation with Margaret. While her apology and promises of reform were encouraging, Amir wanted to ensure the lessons learned would resonate far beyond one cafe. He began reaching out to others in his community who had faced similar forms of discrimination, gathering their stories and building a network of like-minded individuals eager to fight for change. The first step in Amir's plan was to organize a community forum on inclusivity in local businesses. He worked tirelessly with the civil rights organization that had supported him, securing a venue and spreading the word through social media and flyers. The response was overwhelming. On the day of the event, the room was filled with people from all walks of life: business owners, activists, religious leaders, and concerned citizens, all united by a shared commitment to justice. Amir stood at the podium, his heart pounding as he looked out at the crowd. He had spent hours preparing his speech, but as he began to speak, his words flowed effortlessly, fueled by passion and conviction. Discrimination in any form is not just an attack on an individual, it's an attack on the values we hold dear as a community, Amir said, his voice steady and resolute. What happened to me at that cafe was not an isolated incident. It's part of a larger problem that we must confront together. Today we have an opportunity to create meaningful change, not just for ourselves but for future generations. The audience erupted into applause, their energy palpable. Throughout the event, speakers shared their own experiences with discrimination and offered ideas for fostering inclusivity. Business owners pledged to review their policies and implement training programs, while activists outlined plans for broader advocacy efforts. By the end of the day, Amir felt a renewed sense of hope. Together, they had taken the first steps toward building a more inclusive community. But Amir wasn't stopping there. He knew that true change required more than words, it required action. Drawing on his background in consulting, he began developing a comprehensive guide for businesses on creating inclusive environments. The guide, titled Building Bridges, a toolkit for inclusive business practices, outlined practical steps for promoting diversity, addressing bias, and fostering a sense of belonging among employees and customers alike. Amir's guide quickly gained traction, with local businesses requesting copies and inviting him to conduct workshops. What had started as a deeply personal struggle was now blossoming into a movement, one that was reshaping the way businesses approached inclusivity in the city. Meanwhile, the cafe that had sparked the controversy was undergoing its own transformation. True to her word, Margaret had implemented diversity training for her staff and established a zero-tolerance policy for discrimination. She also reached out to Amir, inviting him to lead a workshop at the cafe and share his perspective with the team. Amir hesitated at first. The thought of returning to the cafe where he had faced such hostility was daunting. But as he considered Margaret's invitation, he realized it was an opportunity to turn the page and contribute to the cafe's journey toward redemption. On the day of the workshop, Amir entered the cafe with a mixture of apprehension and resolve. The staff, including several new hires, greeted him warmly, their expressions a stark contrast to Greg's hostility. Margaret introduced Amir to the team, praising his courage and commitment to inclusivity. For the next 2 hours, Amir shared his story and led the staff through interactive exercises designed to challenge biases and foster empathy. The atmosphere was one of openness and reflection, with staff members expressing their gratitude for the chance to learn and grow. As the workshop came to a close, Margaret addressed the team. "This cafe was built on the idea of bringing people together," she said. "We lost sight of that vision, but today, thanks to Amir, we're taking steps to reclaim it. Let's make this a place where everyone feels welcome." The staff applauded, and Amir felt a sense of closure. The cafe was no longer a symbol of exclusion, it was becoming a beacon of hope. As Amir's movement gained momentum, he began receiving invitations to speak at conferences and events across the country. His story resonated with audiences far and wide, inspiring others to take a stand against discrimination in their own communities. He was featured in news articles and podcasts, his message of resilience and inclusivity reaching a global audience. One day, Amir received an email that left him momentarily speechless. It was from the CEO of a major national restaurant chain, inviting him to serve as a consultant on a new initiative to promote diversity and inclusion within the company. The chain, which operated hundreds of locations across the country, had faced its own share of controversies and was eager to turn over a new leaf. Amir accepted the opportunity, seeing it as a chance to amplify his impact. Over the next several months, he worked closely with the chain's leadership team, conducting assessments, developing training programs, and helping them craft a vision for a more inclusive future. The initiative, dubbed A Table for All, became a flagship program for the chain, earning widespread praise and setting a new standard for the industry. Despite his growing influence, Amir remained deeply connected to his roots. He continued to engage with his local community, organizing events, mentoring young activists, and advocating for systemic change. His consulting firm, which he had temporarily put on hold, evolved to focus on social impact initiatives, helping other businesses embrace inclusivity and equity. Through it all, Amir's family remained his unwavering source of support. Layla, who had been by his side from the beginning, often joined him at events, offering her own insights and encouragement. Their children, inspired by their father's example, took pride in the work he was doing and often participated in community projects. One evening, as Amir sat with his family around the dinner table, he reflected on how far they had come. What had begun as a painful encounter at a cafe had grown into a movement that was touching lives and changing hearts. It was a testament to the power of resilience, determination, and the unwavering belief that a better world was possible. Amir's work with the national restaurant chain elevated his profile to new heights, but it also brought with it a profound sense of responsibility. His efforts were no longer just about addressing a single incident of discrimination, they were about reshaping an entire industry. As the chain's A Table for All initiative took off, Amir found himself in meetings with executives, training sessions with managers, and even visiting restaurants across the country to see the changes firsthand. One particular visit stood out to Amir. He traveled to a location in the Midwest, where the restaurant staff had struggled with issues of bias and exclusion in the past. When Amir arrived, he was greeted by the store manager, a young woman named Kendra, who seemed nervous but eager to learn. "We've been working on the training you developed," Kendra said as she shook Amir's hand. "It's been eye-opening for all of us, and I think it's really starting to make a difference." Amir smiled, reassured by her sincerity. He spent the day observing the staff in action, participating in their team meetings and answering questions. By the end of his visit, he could see the transformation in the team's attitudes and interactions. As he prepared to leave, Kendra approached him with tears in her eyes. "I just wanted to thank you," she said. "This work you're doing, it's not just changing businesses, it's changing people. You've given us a way to be better, and I'm so grateful for that." Her words stayed with Amir, reaffirming his belief in the importance of his mission. Each small victory, each life touched, was a step toward the world he envisioned, a world where everyone felt seen, valued, and respected. Back in his hometown, Amir's movement continued to flourish. The community forum he had organized grew into a monthly series, with each event attracting larger crowds and more diverse perspectives. Local businesses began collaborating with him on projects to promote inclusivity, from creating scholarships for underrepresented groups to hosting cultural events that celebrated the city's diversity. One of the most memorable events was a multicultural festival held in the city's main park. Amir worked tirelessly with a team of volunteers to bring the event to life, coordinating performances, food vendors, and activities that showcased the community's rich tapestry of cultures. The festival drew thousands of attendees, filling the park with laughter, music, and the tantalizing aroma of cuisines from around the world. As Amir walked through the festival, greeting familiar faces and meeting new ones, he felt an overwhelming sense of pride. This was what he had been fighting for, a community united in its diversity, celebrating its differences rather than being divided by them. Near the main stage, Amir spotted Margaret, the cafe owner who had been the catalyst for so much of his journey. She was chatting with a group of people, her face alight with enthusiasm. When she saw Amir, she waved him over. "Amir, this festival is incredible," Margaret said, beaming. "I can't thank you enough for everything you've done, not just for my cafe but for this entire community. You've inspired me to keep pushing for change, and I'm so grateful to be part of this." Amir thanked her, humbled by her words. Margaret's transformation was a testament to the power of accountability, education, and a willingness to grow. She had become an ally in his mission, and together they were helping to build a more inclusive community. Amir's efforts didn't go unnoticed. He began receiving recognition from local and national organizations, earning awards for his advocacy work and being invited to share his story on prominent platforms. One day he received an invitation that took him by surprise. He was asked to deliver a keynote address at a prestigious business conference in New York City. The conference, which brought together leaders from various industries, was a unique opportunity for Amir to share his vision on a grand stage. As he prepared his speech, he reflected on the journey that had brought him to this point, the challenges he had faced, the lessons he had learned, and the impact he hoped to make. When the day of the conference arrived, Amir stood backstage, his heart pounding with anticipation. The MC introduced him with a glowing introduction, and as Amir stepped onto the stage, he was greeted by a standing ovation. For the next 45 minutes, Amir captivated the audience with his story, weaving together personal anecdotes, practical insights, and a powerful call to action. He spoke about the importance of empathy, the need for systemic change, and the role businesses could play in shaping a more equitable society. "We all have a choice," Amir said as he concluded his speech. "We can choose to be silent in the face of injustice, or we can choose to take a stand. Each of us has the power to make a difference, no matter how small it may seem. Together we can create a world where everyone belongs." The audience erupted into applause, and Amir felt a surge of gratitude and purpose. His message had resonated, and he knew the ripple effects would extend far beyond the conference walls. Amir's work continued to evolve, taking on new dimensions as his platform grew. He launched a non-profit organization dedicated to promoting inclusivity and equity in businesses, schools, and communities. The organization, aptly named Belong, offered workshops, resources, and consulting services to help others build environments where everyone felt valued. Belong quickly gained traction, with chapters springing up in cities across the country. Amir traveled extensively, meeting with community leaders, facilitating training sessions, and speaking at events. Each interaction deepened his understanding of the challenges people faced and the solutions that could make a difference. Through it all, Amir remained grounded by his family and his faith. Layla continued to be his rock, offering unwavering support and encouragement. Their children, inspired by their father's example, became passionate advocates for inclusion in their own right. One evening, as Amir returned home from a particularly long trip, he found Layla and the kids waiting for him with a surprise. They had decorated the living room with balloons and a banner that read, "Welcome home, our hero." Amir laughed, his exhaustion melting away as he hugged his family. "I don't know about being a hero," he said, "but I couldn't do any of this without you." "You're our hero," Layla said, smiling. "And you're making the world a better place for all of us." As Amir's nonprofit, Belong, expanded, so did its influence. The organization began tackling broader issues, branching into areas such as housing equity, access to education, and community policing. Amir realized that creating inclusive spaces required more than just policy changes in businesses. It required addressing the deep-rooted inequalities that permeated society. One of the most ambitious projects Belong undertook was transforming an abandoned warehouse in Amir's hometown into a multicultural community center. The center would serve as a hub for learning, celebration, and connection, a place where people of all backgrounds could come together and thrive. Amir poured his heart into the project, collaborating with architects, artists, and local organizations to bring the vision to life. The process was anything but easy. Funding was a constant challenge, with Amir and his team tirelessly pitching the project to potential donors and applying for grants. There were also logistical hurdles, from securing permits to navigating construction delays. Yet, despite the obstacles, Amir refused to give up. Every great change starts with a dream, Amir told his team during one particularly difficult meeting. And this center is our dream. It's a symbol of what's possible when we come together. Let's keep fighting for it. His determination was infectious, and slowly but surely, the pieces began falling into place. Donations trickled in, volunteers stepped up, and the building started to take shape. By the time the grand opening approached, the community's excitement was palpable. The opening day of the community center was a momentous occasion. Hundreds of people gathered outside the building, which had been transformed into a vibrant, welcoming space adorned with murals depicting scenes of unity and resilience. The energy in the air was electric, a testament to the hard work and dedication that had made the center possible. Amir stood at the entrance, greeting attendees with a mix of pride and humility. Among the crowd, he spotted Margaret, the cafe owner who had been at the start of his journey, along with Kendra, the manager he had met during his travels, and countless others whose lives had intersected with his work. Each face represented a story, a connection, and a shared commitment to building a better future. As the ceremony began, Amir took to the stage to deliver his remarks. He spoke about the journey that had led to this moment, the challenges they had overcome, and the vision for what the center could achieve. This center is more than just a building, Amir said, his voice steady and heartfelt. It's a place where dreams can take root, where barriers can be broken, and where everyone, no matter who they are, can feel like they belong. Together, we've created something extraordinary, and I can't wait to see the incredible things that will happen here. The audience erupted into applause, and Amir felt a surge of gratitude. This was the culmination of years of hard work, a tangible manifestation of his mission. As he looked out at the crowd, he saw tears, smiles, and an overwhelming sense of hope. In the months following the opening of the community center, its impact was undeniable. The space buzzed with activity, hosting everything from language classes and job fairs to cultural festivals and art exhibits. The center became a beacon of inclusion and possibility, attracting people from all walks of life. Amir spent as much time as he could at the center, listening to stories, sharing ideas, and continuing to advocate for change. One evening, as he walked through the building, he encountered a group of teenagers gathered around a table, deep in discussion. Curious, Amir approached them and struck up a conversation. The teens, who came from different backgrounds and neighborhoods, explained that they were working on a project to address food insecurity in the community. Inspired by Amir's work, they had decided to create a program that would distribute fresh produce to families in need, sourced from local farmers. Amir was impressed by their initiative and offered to help. Over the following weeks, he mentored the group, connecting them with resources and guiding them through the process of launching their program. Seeing their passion and determination reminded Amir of his own journey and reinforced his belief in the power of young people to drive change. As the years went by, Amir's influence continued to grow. His story became a source of inspiration for people around the world, sparking conversations about inclusion, resilience, and the power of community. He was invited to speak at international conferences, participate in panels with world leaders, and even contribute to policy discussions at the national level. Despite his growing prominence, Amir remained deeply connected to his roots. He continued to live in his hometown, raising his family and staying involved in local initiatives. He never forgot the incident that had sparked his journey, the day he had been turned away from the cafe, and he used it as a reminder of the importance of his work. One day, as Amir walked through the neighborhood, he noticed a young boy sitting on the steps of the community center, looking thoughtful. The boy, who couldn't have been more than 10 years old, held a notebook in his hands, scribbling furiously. Curious, Amir approached him. "What are you working on?" he asked, his tone warm and encouraging. The boy looked up, his eyes bright with excitement. "I'm drawing what I want to be when I grow up," he said, holding up the notebook to reveal a sketch of a teacher standing in front of a classroom. "That's amazing," Amir said, smiling. "Why do you want to be a teacher?" "Because I want to help kids learn and feel like they're important," the boy replied. "Just like you helped everyone feel important with this place?" Amir's heart swelled with emotion. Moments like these reminded him of why he had started this journey, to create a world where everyone felt valued and empowered to pursue their dreams. Amir's legacy was far-reaching, touching lives in ways he could never have imagined. From the cafe where his journey began to the boardrooms where he now influenced policies, his impact was a testament to the power of one person's determination to make a difference. But Amir knew his work was far from over. He continued to dream big, to challenge the status quo, and to inspire others to join him in building a more inclusive world. And as he looked toward the future, he felt a deep sense of hope, knowing that the seeds he had planted would continue to grow for generations to come. Amir's influence began to shift into unexpected areas as his nonprofit Belong continued to thrive. Not only had he become a prominent voice in advocating for inclusion and equality, but he also started collaborating with corporations that sought to make their workplaces more inclusive. His work was no longer limited to cafes or small businesses. Multinational companies began seeking his advice to transform their cultures from within. One such company, a leading tech giant, approached Amir with an ambitious project. They wanted to create a program that would ensure marginalized communities had access to high-paying jobs in the tech industry. Amir agreed to help, but he had one condition: the initiative must be more than just a public relations effort. It needed to make a tangible difference in people's lives. With Amir at the helm, the company launched a series of training programs aimed at equipping people from underserved communities with the skills needed to thrive in the tech world. The program also provided mentorship opportunities, career counseling, and guaranteed job placements for participants who completed the training. Amir made it a point to visit the program's first cohort, a diverse group of individuals who were eager to seize this opportunity. During his visit, he spoke to them about his journey and the importance of perseverance. "Your path may not always be easy," Amir told them, "but remember that you belong here. Your voices, your talents, and your perspectives are invaluable. Don't let anyone make you feel otherwise." His words struck a chord with the participants, many of whom had faced significant barriers to get to where they were. Over time, the program became a resounding success, leading to similar initiatives being implemented in other industries. As Amir's work reached new heights, he found himself grappling with an unexpected challenge: burnout. The relentless pace of his advocacy, combined with the emotional toll of fighting for change, began to take a toll on his mental and physical health. Amir, who had always prided himself on his resilience, struggled to admit that he needed a break. It wasn't until his wife, Amina, sat him down one evening that he began to confront the reality of his situation. "Amir, you've been running on empty for months," she said gently. "You've done so much good, but you can't pour from an empty cup. You need to take care of yourself." Reluctantly, Amir agreed to step back temporarily from his work to focus on his well-being. He spent time reconnecting with his family, exploring hobbies he had long neglected, and reflecting on his journey. The break gave him the clarity he needed to reassess his priorities and find a healthier balance. When Amir returned to his work, he did so with a renewed sense of purpose. He made a conscious effort to delegate more responsibilities to his team and prioritize self-care. The experience taught him that taking care of himself was not a sign of weakness, but a necessary part of sustaining his mission. One of the most profound moments of Amir's journey came when he was invited to speak at a global summit on social justice. The event, which brought together activists, leaders, and changemakers from around the world, was an opportunity for Amir to share his story on an international stage. As he stood before a packed audience, Amir felt a mix of nerves and excitement. He began his speech by recounting the day he had been turned away from the cafe, the moment that had ignited his passion for creating a more inclusive world. "That day I felt small and invisible," Amir said, his voice steady. "But it also lit a fire within me, a fire to prove that everyone, no matter who they are, deserves respect and dignity." He went on to speak about the power of community, the importance of allyship, and the need for systemic change. His words resonated deeply with the audience, many of whom were moved to tears. As Amir concluded his speech, the room erupted into a standing ovation. Among the crowd were people from all walks of life: activists who had been fighting for justice for decades, young leaders just starting their journeys, and even policymakers who had the power to enact meaningful change. In that moment, Amir realized that his story was no longer just his own. It had become a symbol of hope, a reminder that even the smallest actions could spark a ripple effect that changed the world. After the summit, Amir returned home to find a letter waiting for him. It was from Margaret, the cafe owner who had once denied him service. Curious, Amir opened the envelope and began reading. In the letter, Margaret expressed her remorse for how she had treated Amir all those years ago. She explained that her actions had been fueled by ignorance and fear, but seeing Amir's work had forced her to confront her biases and change her perspective. "I want you to know," Margaret wrote, "that your courage and kindness have inspired me to be a better person. I've sold the cafe and donated the proceeds to Belong, as a small way of supporting the incredible work you're doing." Amir was deeply moved by the gesture. He hadn't sought revenge or retribution. His mission had always been about building bridges and fostering understanding. Margaret's letter was a testament to the power of compassion and the possibility of redemption. Years later, as Amir sat in his office at Belong's headquarters, he reflected on the journey that had brought him here. The organization had grown far beyond what he had ever imagined, with chapters in cities across the globe and a team of passionate advocates working tirelessly to create a more inclusive world. Amir's office was filled with mementos from his journey: a photo from the community center's grand opening, a plaque from the tech company's training program, and a framed copy of Margaret's letter. Each item told a story, a reminder of the lives he had touched and the lessons he had learned along the way. As he looked out the window at the bustling city below, Amir felt a deep sense of gratitude. He knew that the work was far from over, but he also knew that he was not alone. The seeds he had planted had grown into a thriving movement, one that would continue to flourish long after he was gone. Amir smiled to himself, thinking about the young boy he had met at the community center all those years ago. "Dream big," he had told the boy. "You never know how far it will take you." For Amir, those words had never rung truer. As Belong continued to grow, Amir's work began reaching an even broader audience. His story was turned into a documentary titled Ripple Effect, chronicling his journey from that fateful day at the cafe to becoming a global advocate for inclusion. The film not only highlighted Amir's achievements but also shed light on the systemic issues he had fought to address. The documentary premiered at a prestigious film festival, drawing critical acclaim and sparking conversations worldwide. Audiences were captivated by Amir's humility, resilience, and unwavering commitment to justice. Many were inspired to take action in their own communities, proving that Amir's ripple effect was still spreading. Amir was invited to participate in a panel discussion following the premiere. As he listened to audience members share how his story had impacted them, he felt a profound sense of fulfillment. One young woman, who had faced discrimination due to her religion, stood up to express her gratitude. "Your work gave me the courage to stand up for myself," she said, her voice trembling with emotion. "You reminded me that my voice matters." Her words reinforced Amir's belief in the power of storytelling. He knew that his journey had the potential to inspire others, but hearing it firsthand was a reminder of why he had started this work in the first place. The success of Ripple Effect brought new opportunities for Amir to expand his impact. He was approached by a major publishing house to write a memoir, which he titled Belonging: A Journey of Justice and Compassion. The book became a bestseller, resonating with readers from all walks of life. In the memoir, Amir didn't shy away from discussing the challenges he had faced along the way. He wrote about the moments of doubt, the obstacles that had tested his resolve, and the importance of leaning on his support system. But he also celebrated the triumphs, the lives he had touched, the policies he had helped change, and the communities he had built. The book tour took Amir to cities around the world, where he met people who had been inspired by his work. At each event, he emphasized the importance of collective action, urging readers to join him in creating a more inclusive world. "This journey isn't just mine," Amir told them. "It belongs to all of us. Together, we can build a future where everyone feels seen, heard, and valued." As Amir's influence grew, so did the scope of his work. He began collaborating with international organizations to address issues such as refugee rights, climate justice, and access to education. His efforts were recognized with numerous awards, including a prestigious humanitarian prize. Despite the accolades, Amir remained grounded. He continued to prioritize the grassroots initiatives that had been the foundation of his work, ensuring that Belong's programs remained accessible to those who needed them most. He also made it a point to mentor the next generation of leaders, sharing the lessons he had learned and empowering them to carry the torch forward. One of his ments, a young activist named Layla, became a rising star in the movement for social justice. Layla often credited Amir for helping her find her voice, but Amir insisted that she had always had the potential within her. "All I did was give you a platform," he told her with a smile. "The rest was all you." Seeing Layla's success filled Amir with hope for the future. He knew that the fight for justice would continue long after he was gone, and he was grateful to play a part in shaping the leaders who would carry it on. Years later, Amir's legacy was celebrated at a global summit marking the 20th anniversary of Belong. The event brought together activists, policymakers, and community leaders from around the world, all of whom had been touched by Amir's work. As Amir took the stage to deliver the keynote address, he was met with a standing ovation. He looked out at the audience, filled with faces that represented the diversity and resilience of humanity, and felt a deep sense of pride. "I stand here today," Amir began, "not as an individual, but as a representative of a collective effort. Belong was never about one person, it was about all of us coming together to create a better world." He reflected on the journey that had brought him to this moment, from the pain of being turned away from a cafe to the joy of seeing Belong flourish. He spoke about the power of empathy, the importance of allyship, and the need for courage in the face of adversity. Our world is far from perfect, Amir concluded, but every step we take toward justice, no matter how small, brings us closer to the future we deserve. Let's keep taking those steps together. The audience erupted into applause, and Amir was joined on stage by his family, his team, and the community members who had been the heart of Belong. Together, they represented the culmination of a journey that had started with one man's decision to turn pain into purpose. In the years that followed, Belong continued to thrive, expanding its reach and deepening its impact. Amir transitioned into a more advisory role, entrusting the day-to-day operations to the capable team he had built. He spent his time traveling, writing, and mentoring, always finding new ways to contribute to the movement he had helped create. When Amir eventually stepped back from his work, he did so with the knowledge that Belong was in good hands. The organization had become a beacon of hope, a testament to what was possible when people came together to fight for justice. As Amir settled into retirement, he often reflected on the journey that had brought him here. He thought about the people who had supported him, the challenges that had shaped him, and the legacy he had built. And he felt grateful, not just for what he had accomplished but for the opportunity to make a difference. On quiet mornings, Amir would sit by the window of his home, sipping tea and watching the world go by. He kept a photo of the old cafe on his desk, a reminder of where it had all begun. Beside it was a framed copy of Margaret's letter, a symbol of the power of change and the possibility of redemption. As Amir watched the sun rise over the city, he smiled to himself. His journey was far from over, but he knew that he had already left an indelible mark on the world. And for Amir that was more than enough.